My name's Jo McLaughlin from SMRS, and one of our core principles here at SMRS is our curiosity about the world around us. You know, we ask questions, we like to challenge assumptions, we like to dig deeper to uncover fresh ideas and the keenest insights. And this year at SMRS London, you know, we're thrilled to be joined by John Kirk, lead client partner, who will be unveiling our new 2024 Media Mapper Insights, which explores how young people make university choices using different media channels during their application process. So John's been a driving force at SMRS and brings over 20 years of experience in developing successful student marketing strategies across dozens of brands. In addition to leading media activity, John's been at the heart of countless strategic projects, helping universities communicate more effectively to their audiences. So his extensive experience makes him more than the perfect person to guide us through this year's research. So could you please join me in giving a warm welcome to John?
Thank you. Thanks, Jo. I forgot that Jo's doing such a thorough introduction, so I don't have to do too much. I was once told about public speaking that the audience want you to do well, so I'd like to start by saying thank you for your well wishes, and hopefully I can do well. So I'll be taking you through the piece of research that really looks into the channels that students are using to make their choices about going to university. So the channels they're using and the advertising that's influencing them as well. So the agenda split into sort of 5 sections. First of all, thinking about why we undertook the research. It might be quite obvious to you. The methodology, looking at the students' decision-making timeline and how that might vary. And then we start to delve into the media channels themselves. So as I said earlier, the channels that they're using to make their decisions, but also the channels that they're noticing and reacting to advertising on in order to make their choices about which university to go to. And then we have some key takeaways at the end, which I'll run through. So, first of all, understanding where your audience is and which media they are using now is obviously a fundamental question that, as marketers, you'll all want to know. So, why did we undertake the research? Was the first point on the agenda. I mean, the first thing I'd say is that it's unique. It's not available anywhere else, as far as I'm aware. And therefore, it's important because it gives us information, and it gives you information, and it gives our clients information that they wouldn't have without this piece of research being undertaken. And obviously, it's important because we, as an agency, invest a lot of money in advertising on behalf of our clients, and you, as marketers, also invest a lot of money in advertising on behalf of your universities. Overall, the HE sector spends a lot of money on advertising, so it's important that we know that the channels are right and the channels that you're using and that we're using are correct, and they are reaching the students, and the students are using them, and they're noticing advertising on those channels. And so it's important from in terms of a results point of view, but also we know that the finances are under pressure at universities. At every single university, it's not just a select few. All universities are feeling the pinch in terms of finance at the moment. So it's important that you're able to report internally to your stakeholders that where you're spending the money and where you're spending the advertising budget is correct and it's having an impact. So the methodology was a survey to 3,000 students. And we got responses from students across the length and breadth of the UK, as you can see there. The largest regions were the Northwest and London in terms of volume, and I would say that it's probably quite an accurate reflection of the undergraduate student population. In terms of profile, again, we got a really mixed profile, both in terms of attainment and also attainment expected, attainment achieved, and also the school that they attended. And we also ask a couple of questions, again, to sort of help us segment the audience. So we asked them about whether they had been eligible for free school meals ever, We also asked them whether at least one parent had attended a university or had a degree. And you can see the responses there. And as a result of that, we were able to identify a widening participation segment from the research, and we're able to delve into that data separately. Equally, we're able to delve into the data looking at the type of school they attended, the region that they came from. So we're able to really make this research bespoke for our clients based on the profile of their student audiences. So here's what we found. First of all, looking at the journey to university, we asked them about the timeline, and first of all, when did you start researching university options? And there's a real spread there, starting from 5% before year 10, which is quite surprising. Some can't remember, but then a number of them after leaving college or sixth form, so some decided to do that research, obviously around the summer or around clearing. The majority is obviously in that sort of midsection, which you'd expect. Although autumn of year 12 is quite early in terms of what we typically expect. We often think about the spring of year 12 as being the most important, along with summer of year 12. So those 4 periods from autumn of year 12 to autumn of year 13 is a real sweet spot. But a lot of people are starting their journey at different times of the year, so it's important to factor that into your marketing. Do you have the information for people at different points in their journey or at different points in their education? And also, it may be a time to question calls to action on advertising, because if you're applying now and you're advertising, but only a small selection of people who are actively involved at that point are in the position to apply, maybe you should broaden that the calls to action on your advertising. We also asked when did they start their application to university, and again, there's quite a spread there, starting from the autumn of year 12, with the majority obviously being in the autumn of year 13. So this is where we start to ask questions around media usage to make their university choices. First of all, we just asked them a broad question around how they consume media. What are the main channels that they consume media on, or what are they doing when they're consuming media? And as you can see there, social media, music streaming, general internet browsing, online video, subscription video on demand, and gaming are the top 6 ways that they spend their time in terms of consuming media. Then we asked them about the specific channels that they use most frequently, a lot of which you'd probably expect. Google being the biggest search engine, the BBC being the most used TV channel, followed by ITV and then Channel 4, although ITV was more commonly watched by females. So again, you can see the differences between when you delve into the data. And in terms of social media, 3 really stand out, and they're very close in terms of percentage. So TikTok is the most used, closely followed by Instagram and then Snapchat. Again, there's a difference in terms of males. And then Netflix was the most used streaming service, but YouTube in terms of subscription, but overall as a channel, as well as a streaming service, YouTube is used by most people in the survey. 99% used YouTube, so it's the channel that they all use. Nearly all. Then looking into specific questions around research in higher education, so moving away from broadly media usage. So which channels are preferred overall? The university website's way out in front, 73% answered that, but then UCAS events or HE fairs is second, education websites or university listing websites such as What Uni, Complete Uni Guide, the Student Room, TSR, etc. And then online video, probably relating to YouTube, and then prospectuses online. And then we delved into asking specifics around the websites and the social media channels used for HE research, with UCAS, the Student Room, and Unifrog coming out as the leaders in terms of education listing websites. And in terms of social media, there's a slight change there, or there's quite a big change. Even though TikTok is the most used social media channel in terms of media usage, when it comes to research in universities, Instagram actually comes out on top. And actually, that's a difference from last year. Last year, they referenced TikTok as being more important than Instagram when conducting their university research. And then Facebook is probably a surprise, actually. Often asked by clients, are students still using Facebook, and undergraduates still are, for this particular purpose of research in universities. And then we asked them to rank the most important, and it's a similar top four, with the university's website in first place, but there is an audience group difference there. So the widening participation group highlight UCAS events as the most important channel. So they potentially want that sort of first-hand experience, speaking to someone from a university rather than doing their primary research on a university website. And then we asked the most important channels when researching general information. And as you can see there, even though university websites was way out in front in terms of the go-to channel, when we asked about importance, there's a real narrowing in terms of what the students find as important. So it shows that they want to use a variety of channels to inform their decision about going to university. And then we also asked about other types of research about going to university, and we'll just summarize that section. So the preferred and most important channel in terms of finding out about course content, reputation of the university, location, environment, facilities, and student life, it's all the university website. So, it is so important to get the content on your website right and making sure that the course content, the reputation content, as well as the other content about student life, etc., is up to date and is correct and is appealing to students. But on the same questions that we looked at earlier around course content, student life, etc., again, it's the same three education channels that were dominant, although the complete university guide was used more often when researching reputation of a university. And then again, it's the same three social media channels, but as you can see across the bottom, amongst, you might not be able to see it, but I'll read it to you. Amongst those in the widening participation group, TikTok was the most used platform to research location of a university and reputation. So again, there's a difference when we delve into the data and look at that specific audience. So why are university websites key? Well, we could probably make guesses about that, but the reasons that they gave us as part of the research was that they're informative, they're trusted, they're reliable, and they're accessible. So again, it's important to make sure that your content on your website is all of those things. So first of all, is all the information that they need, and can they find it easily? So what is influencing their final decision about going to university? So we've looked at the previous research. We then asked them about that sort of final decision making and which channels they're using at that point. And again, it's a similar group of channels: the university website, UCAS events, listing websites, and social media. But amongst those at university currently, because we surveyed both those in year 13 as well as those that had just started and were in the first year of their degree, those currently at university were more likely to find educational websites more important than UCAS events in terms of final decisions. Now, obviously, they'd been through the full customer journey, so it just shows that maybe at that final point, actually, when UCAS events are in the distant past for them, those listing websites become more important in terms of making those final decisions before applying or even after applying. And there you can see the percentage in terms of importance of each of those channels. But again, they're listing a wide range of channels and media that that is informing their final decision about which university to go to. Now looking specifically at advertising and the impact of advertising. So, we've looked broadly at media channels used to make those decisions, but how do you get, and we also found obviously that the website is absolutely key in terms of that decision-making process and that university research. But how do you get onto the radar of your student audience? Advertising is intended to perform that function. So where are they seeing advertising, and what impact is it having upon that undergraduate audience? So where is university advertising noticed the most? On social media, listing websites, and online video. So channels like YouTube, but it could also encompass in-feed video, I guess, on other channels as well. And where is university advertising noticed the most as a list, as a bar chart? Again, social media is quite far out in front. 44% education or university listing websites, 25% online video. But if we look a bit further into the data and we look at billboards and posters at 24%, and then we look at transport at 15%, that sort of bumps out of home right up to 39%, so up into third place. So it shows that traditional media is also being used and is also being noticed, should I say, by our audiences. So don't just think about online when you're trying to influence students' decision to consider your university. And other channels come up here as well. You know, TV at 11%, radio and music streaming at 12%, etc. And then we asked about specific channels that they were noticing advertising on, and just to select a couple of things here. Of those who selected radio, music streaming services, advertising was mostly noticed on Spotify. So this is university advertising, remember, not just advertising in general, at 76%. And in second place in terms of that category was actually YouTube music streaming at 24%. So Spotify is right out in front when it comes to noticing university advertising on a streaming service. But YouTube is absolutely top for video streaming, with 90% noticing advertising there. So YouTube, you can capture them in two ways, both in terms of video streaming, but also audio streaming advertising. We also asked them what advertising drove them to do, or what they felt advertising drives them to do. And as you can see here, 25% of them said that it made them aware of a university. 24% reminded them of a university or reminded them of an event at a university. 21% said it gave them positive feelings about a particular university. 9% said it actually made them prefer one university over the rest. 7% said that they actually contacted a university or clicked on an advert as a result of seeing advertising, and only 11% suggested negative feelings. You know, potentially the creative execution wasn't quite right for that 11%. And then we asked them what the most impactful channels were for different types of engagement or action. Raising awareness, nudging, eliciting a positive response, eliciting a negative response, initiating contact, and enhancing preference of a particular university. And I think I won't go through all the media in each section here because it'll take a while, but you can see there's a real broad spread. And it's important to potentially factor in that students will respond to advertising on different channels in different ways. So it's important that you plan your media campaign with that in mind. So in summary, what did we find? As we remember from the beginning of the presentation, the journey time varies, so make sure you've got content that will be relevant and will appeal to students at different ages, but also at different points in their journey. Your websites are obviously critical at every stage of the research process, and that seems, it's quite obvious, but we spend a lot of money driving traffic to websites, and actually we drive tens of thousands of visitors to websites. Universities don't typically recruit 10,000 students in any one year, so by working harder to engage with those audiences when they land on your website, it will make a big difference in terms of that application and student numbers at the end of the day. We found that advertising is having a greater impact in terms of action year on year, because we conducted the survey in 2023, and in 2024 they reported that it was having a greater impact. And also usage of different channels matches advertising awareness on channels. So what we found was that where they used certain channels for university research, they tended to notice advertising from universities on those channels as well. It's also important to consider your audience's background and representation in terms of your not only your content on your website, but also the channels that you're using to reach those audiences. As we saw when we start to delve into the data for different audiences, we get quite different results. So it's important that we look at this research in a bespoke way for each individual university according to their audience. And I guess the other thing that we thought was important to pick out is that there's a real wide range of channels to consider in your annual advertising plan. TV is still important, whether that's TV on demand, potentially more than linear TV, audio as well. But we also saw that advertising on outdoor formats is the third highest channel or type of advertising that our audiences notice university advertising on. And then I thought we'd do one major takeaway as well as all those little takeaways, and it was really around content is critical, and that relates to the importance of not only of the university website, but also of your social media content as well. We've been working with the university recently, just reviewing the content and reviewing the user experience, as well as as well as looking at some of their competitors' websites as well. And the reason for that is to make sure that what the content that they have is working well, and what isn't working well for them, but also how their content compares with their competitors, and are they covering all the areas that a student might want to know about in terms of their content on their website. So, we really recommend reviewing that because, as I mentioned earlier, you're driving so much traffic there, it makes sense to get it right. Thinking about some of the presentations that we had earlier around the cost of living in a city, but also thinking about course content as well. Is your university differentiating from a competitor's course with the content on their website? And finally, are you giving them what they need or what you want to tell them? And I think Vicky mentioned that earlier as well in relation to student pulse. So that's everything. Thanks very much for your time, and we don't have a Q&A session, but if anyone has a question, I'd be happy to answer one. Or are we running on?
Yeah, you've got 10 minutes.
Oh, there we go. If you've got any questions, please ask.
Something like an ad hoc check.
I don't have a problem if there's no questions, by the way. So if there's no questions, then I think we do have a question.
Hi, thanks for the information. That was really helpful. I'm Nikki. I'm University of Edinburgh. Just a little bit curious in regards to, obviously, you've got the stats on, when they noticed advertising. Did you manage to get any sort of further information on what they didn't like and what they hated seeing and what would actually be turning them away in terms of messaging or those sorts of things?
We didn't for this particular survey, but we did tweak what we did year on year, and we take on board that feedback. And I guess it's the length of survey is always really important to get really important information, or to get to keep the audience engaged when you're doing a piece of research or survey. And I think potentially we just felt that by adding that delving deeper into the type of content or the type of messaging might just make it too long. So it's something to consider for the future, but no, we didn't ask anything around particular content or messaging in relation to advertising. So please stick around for the next session. I know it's really interesting.